Well, let's continue with analysis around this. And the overriding question, I suppose, is does the African continent have the power to make any meaningful contribution to the peace project between the two countries? Ziniko Mhlaba is on the ground speaking to various experts and commentators about this. And let's speak to him now. Ziniko, good morning to you. And indeed, that question as to whether or not African leaders have any clout when it comes to this raging war in Ukraine by Russia. What do experts believe, particularly after the events that unfolded this past week?
Well, Kole, that's the question we're going to be posing to the Professor of African Politics here at UNISA. Prof. Kia will be speaking to him in a moment. So remember, Kole, we are just getting views of different voices on the ground, South Africans, to give us their reaction on what they make of the events of the weekend. So the first point is UNISA. We will be getting analysis and views from Prof. Kia, who handles African content, specifically African politics, to just get a sense of, do we really have that power and influence to really hold our own at a global stage, especially between these two countries, Russia and Ukraine. So let me not waste any further time. Well, let me bring in Prof. Kia. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us this morning. We saw what happened over the weekend, and of course this was an initiative that was recommended and assigned by the African Union. Looking at how we're doing as a continent, domestically on the African continent, do we really have that power? Do we really have that voice? And is it really influential, particularly at that space between those two countries?
Yes, I would say as the African continent, we do play a very important part in the international arena. South Africa itself is known to be a regional powerhouse, and it also exerts a lot of influence in the diplomatic space, especially by being a member of BRICS, which includes Russia as one of the members of this body. But apart from that, South Africa is also playing a very critical role as a member of the African Union. So to that extent, Africa does have some influence, one can say. Where it becomes a bit worrisome is the fact that some pundits, some critics have been saying, yes, the Africans are trying to bring about peace between Ukraine and Russia. They have undertaken this mission. But are they checking what is happening in their own background? Like in Sudan right now, the war is going on between those two generals. Not only that, not very far from where I am, in Cabo Delgado, in Mozambique, we know that the jihadist war is still going on. Same in Mali, same in other parts like Libya, Chad, and so on. So therein lies the issue.
But that's a fair comment, though, to make, Prof, because you're looking at what's happening in Eswatini, you're looking at what's happening in Sudan and Libya. We've not done really well there, and now we've got this mission that's hyped up by us as media saying, hey, our African leaders going there. But then one will say, look at how we were treated, look at how we were received, look at the conversations we had. You had Ukraine there saying, you know what, guys, if you want us to talk peace, make sure that Russia leaves our territory. So, to some extent, those voices might be fair to make.
Those voices are fair to make, but we must also be aware that in international relations, especially regarding Africa, Africa is normally on the political back foot when it comes to international relations, because these are largely poor countries which can be undermined, which can be disrespected. And it only takes the impact of these Africans speaking right at the fora such as the United Nations, General Assembly in New York, to make sure that their voices are heard. So to that extent, yes, those criticisms are sustainable. But we also have to be aware that for this time around, I think the Africans have done it very good to make sure that they also prioritize their international relations interests. What are those interests? Firstly, the Africans are starving. The food prices are increasing and they are not able to get the grains, mostly from Ukraine side. But from the Russian side, they are not able to get fertilizer, which, as you know, farmers in South Africa and elsewhere in the continent, they need. So to that extent, the Africans have done very good by taking a proactive initiative and going to meet those two leaders.
Let me just squeeze in one last question there, Prof. Yes. people have been saying, are we the right people, though, especially South Africa, to lead that mission to some extent? Because we've taken a stand, and historically we've got ties with Russia. So are we the right people to say, hey guys, fine, peace? Are we a credible voice, looking at our historic view on this matter?
Historically, South Africa does have ties. We know that they stretch as far back as the liberation era. Are we the right people to take this mission? I think South Africa does, because it still wields significant diplomatic muscle in the continent and globally. Some argue that South Africa is not that impartial, is not that neutral. But I think it's not the neutrality aspect, but I think it is the impartiality aspect, that because it has relations with Russia as a member of the BRICS, therefore it has some kind of leverage. In fact, this is why South Africa managed to speak to both Putin as well as President Zelensky by firstly making sure that the success of that mission is guaranteed. What is the success? They managed to get the two leaders to commit that at least peace is necessary. Whether that peace will happen, we don't know, because we have to assess the mission from now on.
Thank you very much, Prof. Gia, for your analysis there. Prof. Gia giving us his analysis, saying he feels very optimistic about that mission. So Xoli will continue giving you more analysis on this matter when he returns after the break.